August 16, by Anton Pavlovich Chekhov. I'll be damned if I write to you again. I have written to Abbazio to St. Moritz. I have written a dozen times at least so far. You have not sent me one correct address, and so not one of my letters has reached, and my long description and lectures about the cholera have been wasted. It's mortifying. But what is most mortifying is that after a whole series of letters from me about our exertions against the cholera, you all at once write me from gay Biarritz that you envy my leisure. Well, Allah forgive you. Well, I am alive, and in good health. The summer was a splendid one, dry, warm, abounding in the fruits of the earth, but its whole charm was from July onwards spoilt by news of the cholera, while you were inviting me in your letters first to Vienna, and then to Abbazio. I was already one of the doctors of the Serpuhovo Zemstvo, was trying to catch the cholera by its tail, and organizing a new section full steam. In the morning I have to see patients, and in the afternoon drive about. I give lectures to the natives, treat them, get angry with them, and as the Zemstvo has not granted me a single kopeck for organizing the medical centers, I cadge from the wealthy, first from one, and then from another. I turn out to be an excellent beggar. Thanks to my beggarly eloquence, my section has 2 excellent barracks, with all the necessaries, and 5 barracks that are not excellent, but horrid. I have saved the Zemstvo from expenditure, even on disinfectants, lime, vitriol, and all sorts of stinking stuff. I have begged from the manufacturers for all my 25 villages. In fact, Kolomin ought to be proud of having been at the same high school with me. My soul is exhausted. I am bored not to belong to oneself, to think about nothing but diarrhea, to start up in the night at a dog's barking and a knock at the gate. Haven't they come for me? To drive with disgusting horses along unknown roads, to read about nothing but cholera, and to expect nothing but cholera, and at the same time to be utterly uninterested in that disease and in the people whom one is serving. That, my good sir, is a hash which wouldn't agree with anyone. The cholera is already in Moscow, and in the Moscow district one must expect it from hour to hour. Judging from its course in Moscow, one must suppose that it is already declining, and that the bacillus is losing its strength. One is bound to think, too, that it is powerfully affected by the measures that have been taken in Moscow, and among us, the educated classes are working vigorously, sparing neither themselves nor their purses. I see them every day and am touched. And when I remember how Zhittl and Buranin used to vent their acrid spleen on these same educated people, I feel almost suffocated. In Nizhny the doctors and the cultured people generally have done marvels. I was overwhelmed with enthusiasm when I read about the cholera in the good old times, when people were infected and died by thousands. The amazing conquests that are being made before our eyes could not even be dreamed of. It's a pity you are not a doctor, and cannot share my delight. That is, fully feel and recognize and appreciate all that is being done, but one cannot tell about it briefly. The treatment of cholera requires of the doctor deliberation before all things. That is, one has to devote to each patient from 5 to 10 hours, or even longer, as I mean to employ Cantani's treatment. That is, clisters of tannin and subcutaneous injection of a solution of common salt. My position will be worse than foolish. While I am busying myself over one patient, a dozen can fall ill and die. You see, I am the only man for 25 villages, apart from a feldsher who calls me your honor, does not venture to smoke in my presence, and cannot take a step without me. If there are isolated cases, I shall be capital. But if there is an epidemic of only 5 cases a day, then I shall do nothing but be irritable and exhausted, and feel myself guilty. Of course, there is no time even to think of literature. I am writing nothing. I refused remuneration, so as to preserve some little freedom of action for myself, and so I have not a halfpenny. I am waiting till they have threshed and sold the rye. Until then, I shall be living on the bear and mushrooms, of which there are endless masses here. By the way, I have never lived so cheaply as now. We have everything of our own, even our own bread. I believe, in a couple of years, all my household expenses will not exceed 1,000 rubles a year. When you learn from the newspapers that the cholera is over, you will know that I have gone back to writing again. Don't think of me as a literary man. While I am in the service of the Zemstvo, one can't do 2 things at once. You write that I have given up Sahalin. I cannot abandon that child of mine. When I am oppressed by the boredom of Belis letters, I am glad to turn to something else. The question when I shall finish Sahelin, and when I shall print does not strike me as being important. While Galkin Vraski reigns over the prison system, I feel very much disinclined to bring out my book. Of course, if I am driven to it by need, that is a different matter. In all my letters, I have pertinaciously asked you one question, which of course you are not obliged to answer. Where are you going to be in the autumn? And wouldn't you like to spend part of September and October with me in Fedosia or the Crimea? I have an impatient desire to eat, drink, and sleep, and talk about literature. That is do nothing, and at the same time feel like a decent person. However, if my idleness annoys you, I can promise to write with or beside you a play or a story. Want you well. God be with you then. The astronomer has been here twice. I felt bored with her on both occasions. Svobodin has been here too. He grows better and better. His serious illness has made him pass through a spiritual metamorphosis. See what a long letter I have written, even though I don't feel sure that the letter will reach you. Imagine my cholera boredom, my cholera loneliness, and compulsory literary inactivity, and write to me more and oftener. Your contemptuous feeling for France. I share. The Germans are far above them, though for some reason they are called stupid. And the Franco-Russian entente cordiale I am as fond of as Tolstoy is. There's something nastily suggestive about these cordialities. On the other hand, I was awfully pleased at Virchow's visit to us. We have raised a very nice potato and a divine cabbage. How do you manage to get on without cabbage soup? I don't envy you your sea nor your freedom, nor the happy frame of mind you are in. Abroad the Russian summer is better than anything, and by the way, I don't feel any great longing to be abroad after Singapore, Ceylon, and perhaps even our Amur, Italy, and even the crater of Vesuvius do not seem fascinating after being in India and China. I did not see a great difference between other European countries and Russia. A neighbor of ours, the owner of the renowned Ottred Count X, is staying now at Biarritz, having run away from the cholera. He gave his doctor only 500 rubles for the campaign against the cholera. His sister, the countess who is living in my section, when I went to discuss the provision of barracks for her workmen, treated me as though I had come to apply for a situation. It mortified me, and I told her a lie, pretending to be a rich man. I told the same lie to the archimandrite, who refuses to provide quarters for the cases which may occur in the monastery. To my question, what would he do with the cases that might be taken ill in his hostel, he answered me, they are persons of means and will pay you themselves. Do you understand? And I flared up and said I did not care about payment, as I was well off, and that all I wanted was the security of the monastery. There are sometimes very stupid and humiliating positions. Before the Count went away, I met his wife, huge diamonds in her ears, wearing a bustle, and not knowing how to hold herself, a millionaire. In the company of such persons, one has a stupid schoolboy feeling of wanting to be rude. The village priest often comes and pays me long visits. He is a very good fellow, a widower, and has some illegitimate children. Right, or there will be trouble.